injury risk predictions for serious runners. So what we do is it's a Strava integration right now that allows us to grab users' historical running data. So we need to calculate metric. We run it through the model. The model has been trained on a larger data set. So it knows, like, we've manually identified the places where someone has experienced an injury in that data set. That's how the model learns. So when we run a new person's data, like Carolyn's data, she runs, she uploads her run to Strava. We listen to Strava. Strava says, hey, your user ran. We get the new data. We calculate the metrics again. We put that into the model and we push a risk score then out to the Strava profile. So a low, medium, or high risk score.
What happens when 3 runners
from different parts of the country
with different running stories
all get together?
Pure
Run Talk
Madness.
So listen in as we talk about all things running related.
And some things that maybe aren't running related.
As it's bound to be a good time. This is
Run Talk Live.
What is up? And welcome to episode 69 of Run Talk Live. That's right, we are on episode 69. So I can't believe we've made it this long. If we made it to 70, that'd be incredible. But here we are on episode 69, and it's a fun one. But I want to get to something real quick. I want to get my little pet peeve going on right now that I got going on in my life. I think I've mentioned it on this program before, but I am obsessed with the Dungeon Crawler Carl book series. I'm telling you guys, like, if you're into super nerdy book stuff, like ridiculous stuff that just doesn't make sense, if you need a good audiobook for your long run, and that's how you should read it too. I would recommend the audiobook for this one for sure. Check out Dungeon Crawler Carl because it's becoming a thing. If you guys haven't heard about it from me, from somebody else, you will be hearing about it soon. Trust me.
Listening to it in double speed.
It's 1.75 right now.
1.75 speed.
Yeah,
right.
It's about perfect with this guy's voice. You kind of got to feel out the narrators and see what speed their voice really works at. But yeah, 1.75 for this guy, and he is an excellent voiceover person too. Excellent. He does all kinds of voices. He's amazing.
Food for thought. All right.
Yep.
Is that a stop sign on your shirt? Are you wearing a stop pre-shirt?
Heck yeah, man. You know it.
Yes. Carolyn,
you're speechless. That's awesome.
Carolyn, I'm hoping you know the reference now. Since you have seen Without Limits, you should at least know.
I have. I still need to see the other Prefontaine movie with Jared Leto, but I feel like it's going to be hard to top the one with Billy Crudup. That's my man right there.
Monica Potter, come on, that's a good one.
That literally sent me on a 2-day research project on Prefontaine, the history of the movie, the history of Oregon. It was a deep dive, man.
Yep. For the listeners out there, me and Chase are of relatively close to the same generation. Carolyn's 10 years behind us, so we had to catch her up a little bit on some Prefontaine history and some movie history. But yeah, real quick, guys, before we get into our special guest, what are we racing, or what did we race recently? Because I know, Carolyn, you had something.
I have a half coming up in a couple weeks, and I'm racing a 5K this weekend. So that's my plan. I had a really good half a couple weeks ago, so hoping to build on that for the Indy Mini when I get to hang with Chase.
Yep, Indy Mini here, just 2.5 weeks away. I got my hometown half coming up. I was just telling Carolyn before you guys came on that I'm actually a little nervous about this one. I'm not in the greatest shape. I really haven't built off of Gate River too well, so I'm a little nervous. I don't know how well I'm going to be able to show out in front of my hometown this year.
Top 5. You're top 3.
Yeah,
you're top 3.
I feel like you could possibly pull off do you have this attitude I don't know if I'm going to do okay? You're going to go out and win it. We know Chase.
I mean, I've won it 3 out of 4 years, but I don't know if I'm there this year. I'm just not. It's not like I'm super fast or anything. This is like a small half marathon, but yeah, I just don't know if I got it. I don't know. We'll see. I'll just pump myself full of First Form energy drinks and some run gum and just pedal to the metal. See what happens.
Well, I was at the RRCA conference this weekend out in Washington, D.C., and I ran the Cherry Blossom 10 mile. Technically, I did the Double Blossom. So it was a 5K Saturday, the 10 mile on Sunday. I was very happy with my race. Granted, that course was amazing and beautiful. And then you guys know we were texting offline. I got to meet some pretty cool people. Got some autographs. Got my Dakota Lindworm Olympic autograph back here in one of her books. So that was pretty cool. And got to learn, do a bunch of class sessions. And, they had a bunch of sessions on coaching masters runners and coaching, through social media. And they had a bunch of like AI content stuff, going over some, Training Peaks and Strava coaching and Garmin coaching platforms and things like that. And it was really neat. And not to transition here, Chase, I apologize, but the whole time I was doing my AI course, I was thinking of our special guest here. And what he's got going on. So if you guys are okay with that, I'd like to go ahead and introduce our special guest, Mr. I was just going to say Mr. Anderson, from the Matrix. We got, and you're going to have to correct my pronunciation here. Bjorn Anderson, from right here in the Jacksonville area. Special guest today, created something pretty amazing that I'm going to let him do most of the talking on. But welcome to the podcast, Bjorn.
No, thanks for having me on. This is great.
So let's lead into that, because I don't want to steal any thunder on what you have created and how you created it. But you created RunWise, the CEO, the founder of it, whatever you want to call it. And yeah, just tell us that story and tell us what RunWise is.
Sure. So I am a lifelong runner. I've been at this a while. Ran in high school and competed at the Naval Academy. And when I graduated, I went on to a submarine. So I don't like running on treadmills very much and sort of stopped running. Then went to law school and started a legal career and a family. So I fell away from it for about 10 years, came back to it, the sport, in my mid-30s. And lo and behold, I started to struggle with injuries. And I realized, as I was aging, it wasn't as easy to kind of bounce back like it used to be. And so that's when my wheels started spinning. At the time, I'm working as a patent attorney, and I'm working with all these innovators who are applying machine learning to all sorts of interesting problems, like discovering new drugs and reading medical images and controlling industrial equipment. And I just thought, well, why not running data? When I came back to the sport, we have all these wearables. They seem to get better, collect more information every year. And I just thought seems like a problem that machine learning might be able to help us with, find a solution. So I kind of searched around and couldn't find anything, and sat down and just it was something I was interested in. So I learned how to train some classifiers, and once I did that, you can go out and learn how to do that on the internet. And I had some friends that had gone back to grad school and were studying data science or machine learning and working in the field, so they kind of helped me out, pointed me in the right direction. But once I had a handle on that, I just sat down with some running data and labeled it for injuries, and started training models to see, just to see if I could get something to work. It's a lot of trial and error. I won't go into all the technical details, but you play around with the features and the model architectures and some of the parameters for the models, and you just do it over and over again and see if you can get a model that performs well. Well, after some period of time, I had something that I thought was working pretty well, and it was early 2022, and I just started putting it to use for my own training. And at first it was really, or for a long time, I shouldn't say at first, it was pretty clunky. It was basically downloading spreadsheets from Garmin Connect every week, and I had some Python code on my computer, and so I download the spreadsheets, clean up the data, upload it, and then run it through this Python script with the model, and get a risk score, and then use it. If it said I was at high or medium risk, I would use it to make training decisions, and I went forward. So that was, I've been doing that for about 4 years now and have stayed injury free despite the statistics that say that 50 to 70% of us will get injured on an annual basis. So I'm like the N equals one study. But somewhere in there, so this was not a business at first at all. It was just a passion project. Somewhere in there, my co-founder, who became my co-founder, he's a good friend and another patent attorney, said, "Why don't we connect it to Strava and share it with people?" Right? We're of course talking about it a lot with the people that we run with, and people said they thought it was interesting, but it wasn't. Like I said, it was pretty clunky. It wasn't in a form that you could share. I actually had an early version that I did share with my brother, and I had to make a 12-page PDF instructions on how to use it. So that's where we thought, hey, let's see if we can figure out how to connect it to Strava and share it with people. We did that. I think that was end of 2023 or early 2024. So we connected it to Strava. We had a web page. It was just a landing page with a connect with Strava button, but people were gracious enough to give it a shot and started using it. And that's during the year of 2024. That's when I started to think, maybe there's something here. It's something I want to, take a crack at. I don't want to look back 10 years from now and think I could have, should have really tried to make this happen. So I stepped away from the law firm, stepped down from the law firm, and went at this full time last year.
So
here I am.
For the listeners out there that have never heard of RunWise, and Carolyn's actually a user of RunWise.
Oh, yeah. Great. Okay.
What's in a Cliff Note version? Like, how do you describe RunWise to someone that's never heard of it?
Yes, great question. So we do it's injury risk predictions for serious runners. So what we do is we connect via Strava. It's a Strava integration right now. We started with Strava for obvious reasons to runners, right? A massive platform with 180 million users on there. So most of our friends at the time, we were just testing this out. That was the place to find them. But that allows us to grab users' historical running data. So we need to calculate metrics. They're calculated over different periods of time, but a 1 week, 3 week, and 12-week average. So we calculate those metrics. We run it through the model. The model has been trained on a larger data set that has been so it has all those features, but it also in that data set, we call it labeled, so it knows, like, we've manually identified the places where someone has experienced an injury in that data set. That's how the model learns. So when we run a new person's data, like Carolyn's data, through, she runs, she uploads her run to Strava. We listen to Strava. Strava says, hey, your user ran. We get the new data. We calculate the metrics again. It's, again, some historical averages. We put that into the model, and we push a risk score then out to the Strava profile. So a low, medium, or high risk score. And it's like a weather forecast. So the model gives you a probability. It's not a promise or guarantee that you're going to be injured. It's just like someone saying, hey, there's a 70% chance of rain. We all know what to do with that. Right? We might take a jacket or an umbrella. The RunWise risk score sort of works the same way. It's a piece of information that you can use for planning. So maybe you adjust your making an easier run or take a day off or what have you. But hopefully will help people avoid injuries in the future.
Chase, I know I'm dealing with an injury. You recently had an injury, right?
Yeah, I've been dealing with kind of a series, I guess, of little injuries here and there.
It's the master's curse, Bjorn, where we're feeling those injuries and not recovering the same.
That's right.
Carolyn, what about you? Have you found it, like, what's your experience with the system so far?
I love it. For most of I've noticed it just connects to outdoor workouts, which is great. But I've noticed, like, if I try to push an easy run, if it's like windy or too hot outside, then I'll get a risk medium, and I'll be like,
Okay.
probably shouldn't have pushed it when it's. I just pulled up one of my runs. I tried to push a run in a 17-mile-per-hour headwind, and it said medium, and I was like, that's fair, because typically if I'm injured, it's either my knee or my hip. And I was like, probably on that day, my knee was probably not happy. But I do enjoy this program. I feed off of it because the next day my butt was on the treadmill and recovering. So I do use and I pay attention to the risks. So
no, that's awesome. That's great to hear. Please give feedback as you go along. If there's things that you want to see or don't make sense, or other features that you want, we'd love to hear that information and see what we can do.
Yeah, and it definitely helps too, because people can see that, like, it's on your run, like it's going to tell you a risk, low or medium, and it's like, well, crap, now people can see that I like overdid it on this run. So it's definitely helpful too to have that public.
Oh, that's good to hear too.
Yeah.
I have to share this. So obviously, you guys know, the listeners don't. Me and Bjorn, we live in the same area, do a lot of the same races. The first time I came across your name, I don't know if I told you this, was actually on a results page at a race. It was
Okay.
It was Tour de Pain. You're in my age group, so I thought I had this age group in the bag, and it was the last race of the series. And then I see your name, and you beat me out by like 7 seconds in the combined race. And I was like, "Who's this son of a bitch that just beat me?" And I remember asking around. I was asking Neil Chandler, and Jeff Tomaszewski was there. I was like, "Who is this guy?" And he's like, "Oh yeah, he's over there." And they're pointing in their group of crowds that you're in. I remember eyeballing you. I was like, son of a gun.
That's funny with a different kind of name. I can't hide.
Yeah. So that was my first experience with you. You were the name that beat me, and been beat me ever since then. So it hasn't changed, but still.
Well, I think we've gone back and forth on some things. We're probably up and down at different times, injured or taking time off.
Chase, Carolyn, you'll be proud to know that it was probably 2 weeks before Gate, he did a 25K trail race, and you won the race, right?
Yes, I've been doing here and there the sombrero runs down in Clay County, closer down where you live, but those beautiful trails down there. And that one was I'm sorry, that was the Florida Striders one.
That was the Striders one.
Angry Tortoise. Yep. And that was a warm day, just like Gate, but that was a good time.
Yeah, I think it's always cool to see a runner creating something in the runner space that's useful to everyone. Like, I love seeing runners designing their own running shoes, and in your case, you created this AI system. I don't know if you can call it, I don't know what to call it. I'm calling it an AI system, but because I'm not techie at all, so I apologize. But you created this program that is beneficial, and it sounds like it's still growing and going through some innovation too.
Yes, we're just, we're at that stage. We're pretty early on. We're just trying to build the user base and build awareness of it. Nobody knows who we are, which is hard. but it's based on machine learning, so it's an artificial neural network. The idea is we started with biomechanical load metrics, so they're all time and distance based metrics based around how far, how fast, and how often people run. That data, as you know, is fairly reliable when you get it from Strava or some other system. You don't have to try to filter it or clean it up or worry that you're getting the wrong information. So that's why we started there. And the machine learning piece is just it's very good at finding patterns in sort of complex signals or complex data sets. So that's the idea behind it.
My question with like the injury like risk, do you want like an even balance of like easy, medium, hard? Do you want mostly easy? Like what's the goal, I guess, with that?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So the data set that is trained on right now is what I found. It's fairly consistent data. So if your training is consistent, like if you run, the same amount of mileage week after week after week, you will tend to see low often. The downside of that, right, is it's hard to get a training stimulus sometimes, and you can fall into like a sort of rut where you won't get much improvement. To improve, you kind of have to go up and down and build up maybe to some important races and then take some time off. In those periods, you will, what I've seen, you'll tend to see more highs and mediums, especially when you're building back up. Like for me, most recently, I took a couple weeks off at the end of the year and then started training for gait in early January. So with that time off, I was seeing a lot of high and mediums all up until gate. Like I think right around the time of gate or a little after, it finally stabilized out to low. Now, I didn't panic during that time. It made sense to me. I'd taken some time off, so I was ramping back up. I was also running a little harder than I normally would, getting ready for gate. So my average paces were just a little bit quicker. So what RunWise helped me with there is just to keep it in context and realize, hey, I'm working pretty hard and pay closer attention to what's going on. If I feel something that hurts, I should pay more attention to it and don't just ignore it.
I think that's a really good point you made there. We're talking about how the mediums and the highs isn't necessarily a bad thing. I mean, that just means that you're putting your body through the kind of pain that you need to put it through to improve, right? Like we know how muscles get bigger, right? They tear down a little bit and then they heal back better. But medium and high doesn't always necessarily mean bad. Does RunWise give any kind of like advice in that regard, other than just like resting? Does it have any kind of tips for like how to recover?
So that's a great question too. The paid subscription versions, there's a web-based planning tool where you can. We have been talking about the primary version of it where it pushes the risk score out to Strava. There's no feedback there, or no recommendations or advice there. It's just the low, medium, or high risk score. On the planning tool where you can plan for tomorrow or next week, on those there are some recommendations that go along with the risk score. It's a very early version of it, so they are like a fixed set of recommendations. We, in future versions of the product, we hope to have more personalization where maybe using some AI, some LLMs, like understanding exactly what your training program is and what you're doing and giving you like tailored recommendations on how to change your training plan.
Does RunWise have any competition? Like, is there any competition in this space in exactly what you do?
There's nothing exactly with what we do. So I think the closest things that you'll see are two, like there are two parts. There's ones that have been there for a long time, and that's sort of like fitness and freshness, maybe in Strava or Training Peaks, using things like your acute training load versus your cumulative training load, and um, those get a lot about to the physiology of running, right? Like to understand, are you improving your fitness or is your fitness going in the wrong direction? And if you get that acute load too high, more than that cumulative load, they'll say you're at risk of of injury, sickness, just running like crap. It's a lot of it's just like a subjective understanding, looking at the shapes of the curves, I think. So that's been out there. There are some acute to chronic ratio tools. I think MyTF Run is one, and that's where you just take it's just a simple ratio of your current weekly mileage to your monthly weekly mileage. And if you go over, I think it's 1.5, you know, that has been shown to be associated with risk of injury. So that's a sort of simple rule of thumb. Those are the main ones. There's no company that I'm aware of right now doing machine learning to predict injuries. And one of the barriers there is data. There's only I only know of two tools right now that are even collecting when we're injured, right? So when we went to train these models, I had for my own data, I had to go back to different sources to figure out when I was injured, right? Because people stop running for all. You can't just probably look at your running history and see gaps and be like, oh, I was injured there. You might have just been on vacation or you got tired of running and took some time off. So nobody doing that quite yet. But I have talked with people at companies, like there's interest in doing it. It's just nobody's taken a stab at it yet.
Well, where I'm going at with this too, a two-parter, right? It's kind of a serious question and then more of like a fun follow-up question to it. So you come from the legal avenue, right? Prior to this, is this something that you could patent? Is part one, and then I'll move on to part two after that.
Yeah, so that's how it all started. Things on the wall behind me is a patent plaque. One of the first things I did was file a patent application.
Okay.
That's just the way I sort of thought about the problem, and I wasn't thinking of it like in a business. It just made me sort of really sit down and think through the idea. So I filed a patent on it, and I was able to get it issued. And that patent's on the methodology that we use to train the models. We've since, because we're patent attorneys, have filed. We have 5 pending applications, I think, which is a lot. It's kind of overkill for a company that's like in early stages of revenue, but it's not costing us anything other than the government fees. So we're doing it because we want to use intellectual property as leverage. We've always thought that this is something that we can push to a bigger company, one that's a custodian of lots of this data, and we want to use IP as a tool to do that to the extent we can.
Well, and that leads to my part two, which is, when are you gonna go on Shark Tank?
I need to.
I feel like
I should look that up and see if I can get on there.
Well, it reminds me of, and I'm Chase, I think for sure you've heard of this guy. He actually started off on TikTok, and I became an ambassador for him and got to know him kind of outside of TikTok. But he was a runner that started a soap company called Source Soap.
Okay.
And he ended up he got on Shark Tank, and he ended up getting a deal. He got a deal with Mark Cuban on there.
Oh, wow. Wow.
But it was, it was like a 2.5-year process to get on the show to begin with, and then he finally got on and ended up making a deal. But
that's awesome.
It goes back to
him on a podcast episode, or did we do him like on TikTok Live?
We didn't have him. I don't know if we did him on TikTok Live. I know
I could have swore he joined us at some point.
He may
Or
have.
maybe he just sent us the soap. I don't
Yeah,
know.
yeah,
I feel like
we
we
ended
had
up
him
getting a
on.
bunch of product from him, but I use his stuff. But anyways, it made me think of you and kind of goes back to, I like when I see runners creating something to benefit other runners. And this is completely different, right? This, you're doing something on the technical level. He did something on the soap and, cosmetic level. But it just made me think, when are you going to get on Shark Tank, man? Get it. You can't do it with
Yeah,
Cuban
no, it's
anymore. He's not on the show anymore, but you got to do it Mr. Wonderful or something.
yeah, no, I should look that up. But it's true. I mean, there's a ton of things out there, especially in the running space, that we probably all do on a daily or weekly basis, where we think, oh, this could be better, or I wish I had this, and I mean that's kind of where RunWise came from. It was something that I felt was a need, or something that was missing in the tool set.
Yeah.
I know what you mean. I mean, like I feel like I'm maybe just too picky with things, and like it gets hard to find like the things that I really want, like a planner, a yearly planner is a good example, right? Like I can find something with the hours on it that I like, or maybe the days that I like, but there's always something that like just doesn't fit. So that's why I've spent like the better part of the last 2 years kind of assembling my own running log, because I don't like the
Mm-hmm.
way that any of them works. These guys know that I don't even get on Strava anymore because I log all my stuff on my own sheet, and I've used AI to build that and strengthen that. So it's kind of funny. I don't think 2 years ago I would have understood half of the AI jargon that you spout earlier about code and everything, but I kind of did there. So, but yeah, it's just everybody's got these ideas in their heads, and I think AI is a way. I know there's a lot of people that are negative against it for taking jobs and this and that and the other, art and whatnot. But I think it's really just offering more people the opportunity to kind of use their creativity and put their ideas into something that they couldn't do before. Maybe they didn't have the time, or maybe they didn't have the mental capacity to kind of figure that out before. So um, I'm a big fan of the AI sector as a whole. So just I love seeing all the ways that people were putting it to use in different ways, and this is just another one of those different ways that it just kind of blows your mind that it can even do.
Yeah, and your project that you're working on, is it just for you, or are you planning to bring it to others? Just something you wanted for yourself?
Pretty much. I mean, I thought originally like the idea was like maybe bring it to others, but it's just become so personalized now that I don't know that anybody would really take to it the way that I do. But I don't know, maybe.
Mhm.
So for RunWise, is it just for running, or is it for like any outdoor activity like cycling or like Camp
Mhm.
Gladiator workouts?
Yeah, so we it's just for running right now, and that's what we do, and that's why we started there. Um, we always felt if we, I mean, if you go too broadly and say you could, like, essentially, I think if we started and say, hey, we could solve injuries for every kind of athlete, number one, I don't think we would have gotten anywhere. Number two, I think people would just think we're selling snake oil, maybe more than maybe they are just with running. But it is something that I think in the future will be possible with the right experts. Uh, I think triathletes are, maybe the next sort of step, and to understand um, the multi-sport load, like the running and the biking plus the running, and or the swimming and the biking plus the running, to understand what that additional um, training load does to people, and does it end up with them being injured in the same way. So I think that's something we're saving for the future. One of the, I think, more uh, in the not too near future, we do want to take into account strength training. We're not taking that into account right now. That's a big one. Um, and we want to find a way to do that. It's another one of those with the data. Like, where you need a good source for it. So, it might be its own platform where you have to ask people or to enter it, or is it just a yes or no? But it
I
is
was going to
definitely a
ask that
protective
question,
measure.
if you had any kind of plans of integrating with any other apps other than Strava for, strength training or maybe even nutritional data.
Not right now. We have applied to Garmin to get into their developer program so that we can get access to their API, and we are building our own API. It's called an API, is an application program interface, and that's what lets you communicate with other platforms or for other platforms to communicate with you. So we do want to sort of diversify our source of data right now, which is just coming from Strava. Garmin is the biggest, I think, wearable for runners, so we're going to do that one next. But we do want to kind of integrate with some of the other platforms, maybe Training Peaks or Final Surge, and then we want to be able to also offer platforms the ability to kind of run the risk scores and display it at their own end. So that's our kind of short term sort of path.
I'm geeking out over this now a little bit now that I'm diving more into it with you, but I'm geeking out from a coach's perspective actually, and not necessarily a runner's perspective. And I'm thinking, because some of the athletes that I coach virtually, I coach them through Training Peaks, and in my head I'm thinking, man, how cool would it be if this was linked with Training Peaks, where I could see my athletes' risk injury and based on the workouts that I am building out for them in Training Peaks, and having your program tell me, okay, we need to dial back or we need to pick it up a notch, or something along those lines. I know you mentioned we're not there quite yet, but that's something I know as a coach would be very beneficial with what you're building here.
Yes, that's great. It's good to hear. We that's one of the things. So the platform that we built with that was athlete centric. It goes back to the days before it was a business, right? We just wanted other people to connect with it. It's probably the simplest version to build too. We're not software developers by trade, so we're like, just get athletes. But the trouble, or one of the downsides, I should say, of that is when we go talk to coaches like Jake, we can offer it to athletes, but the coach can't see. It'd be nice to have a platform for coaches to be able to run the risk scores and see it for their athletes and help do the planning. And that's not something that we offer right now. If we could go back 6 months or a year, maybe we would have built that platform instead. But here we are.
Yeah, no, I think it's awesome. I feel like I'm Mr. Wonderful. I want to ask you what your margins are now. What's your net cost? I won't go that personal. Actually, kind of on a personal question, because this will lead to another. You're married and you have kids, right?
Yes, I have a 13-year-old son.
So I'm curious. I recently went through a job change 3 months ago, so very, very recently. And I know it was something I had to talk over with my wife. Obviously, big change. How did your inner circle, respond when you said, "Hey, I'm thinking I want to leave this 9 to 5, good paying, for sure job and build this new adventure that's kind of unknown"?
Yeah, no, my family was really supportive. I think it goes back. So I started down this path during COVID, and my wife is a writer and a mental health therapist, and so she has this sort of passion where you spend a lot of time, doing a craft and being creative. And when I started going down this path of during COVID, when I had a little extra time and the world has stopped, and you kind of, I was in my early 40s and just like, what am I doing with my life? And I dove into this project, and they saw the sort of light in my eyes, and they saw me as creative, I think, for the first time ever. And that's where it started, and then it just sort of built from there. nights and weekends of coding and figuring out, training machine learning models. And we thought for a while maybe we could just get the whole thing going like that on the side. And eventually, just a couple of years went by, and we made progress for sure, but not enough. And at some point, I was just worn down, and and not completely satisfied with my legal job and my legal life, and so that was an easier part. They were like, "Yeah, just do it," and we'll see what happens.
The three of us are still waiting for ESPN to give us a call on our running podcast.
That's right.
Give us our big break, but we're not quite there yet. Haven't captured their attention.
No, and
it's
funny. I worked with a lot of startups, so I wasn't naive about. I think early on, I said I would never do that. Like, it's so risky, and most people, it won't succeed. like 90% of startups fail. Like, why would I do that? But at some point, I don't know. At some point, it crossed over, and I just figured you leap, you try. Like, maybe if it doesn't work, and I'll figure it out from there. I'm much happier as a person, I think, working on this project than I had been several years before that with the legal grind.
No, that's awesome. It's inspiring. It really is. I think a lot of people
Thanks.
have these ideas and want to do these things, but they never push the button. And then 5 years later, they see someone else do it, and they're like, "Oh man, I should have done that." When I had the chance. So to your credit, you're five pending patents out there, and the one you got hanging up there on the wall. Hey, cover yourself now, right?
Cereal flavored milk, man. I had that idea like 30 years ago. I always regretted that one.
Hey, who do you look at as far as running goes? Who do you look up to in the running scene?
I look up to, as I age, I guess I look up to people that are older and still at it and still healthy. So it's just it's something I want to do for as long as I can, like, which is where the injury prevention thing came from. Like, I'm kind of a miserable person when I'm not running. So I like to see people, their 50s, 60s, 70s still out there, running and just enjoying it. And sometimes finding new ways, as we all inevitably slow down to still challenge ourselves and find enjoyment.
Yeah, no, I get it. Like, for me, I look up to the runners from the past. Still, we were joking and talking about Prefontaine, but he's someone that I idolized as a college runner, and Frank Shorter, and you guys, Carolyn and Chase. You had the pleasure of meeting Sean McCormick. Telling us his military stories and how he raced against the German in the marathon here, and everyone thought he was a spy. And just hearing those stories, and and we've had Keith Brantley on this podcast, who's obviously retired but still inspiring in his life. So I look up to that as well too. Those people that are still finding ways to make an impact, or that are no longer with us but made a lasting impact that we'll love forever. So
yeah, there's a guy. I think his name's, now I can't think of it. It's the why we run. So his name's, I think, Bjorn Heinrich might be his name. I'll share it on email afterward. But he has a book called Racing the Clock that he wrote. I think he's still alive. He's in his maybe late 80s now, and he was a really good runner, a really good ultra marathoner. later, especially later in his 40s, 50s, like getting all those age group records and stuff as he aged. But he wrote a great book, Racing the Clock, about sort of running, as you age, and he was still at it as he was writing the book in his 80s.
It's awesome. What about you, Chase? I kind of know who you look up to, but
I mean, I always like the athletes and the people, I guess, in life that I always look up to are the relentlessly hardworking ones. Like when it comes to running, obviously, I love Steve Prefontaine's attitude of front running and just giving it your all, and basically saying that I don't want to be standing up at the end at the finish line. That type of attitude. Have I ever like fallen down at a finish line or puked at a finish? No, that's not me. But like that type of mentality, the Michael Jordans of the world, those people that are just relentless competitors. Those are the people that I really look up to.
cool. And I was also thinking, we've talked about it a bunch of times on our podcast. The running world is growing vastly, and a lot of that growth has occurred since the pandemic. You talked about how you created, you really started this during the pandemic, and then a lot of that's been a result of social media, and social media has been a huge marketing tool for growing the running world. And London Marathon's changing to a 2-day system, potentially changing to a 2-day marathon, and New York had a 23-minute buffer because they had so many applicants come through. I feel like now is the time, if you're going to build something new in the running world, like now is the time to capitalize on it, because the running world cannot be hotter right now. It's so vast and so huge.
That's right. I mean, you see it here locally, just in the last few years, just the number of people that show up at, running clubs and tracks and races. It's unbelievable.
I was on our Florida Strider board meeting right before we started this recording. And we were talking about a race that we have coming up this weekend, Run to the Sun. And we're talking about how the numbers are down. And we're like, man, why are the numbers down right now in registrants? We're like, the numbers are down because every weekend there's 3 or 4 races to choose from at this point here. Like, there's so many races here, 365 days a year. Like, there's no running season is all year long in the South. It doesn't shut down. So yeah, to your point, it continues to grow, and companies and businesses and clubs are finding ways to capitalize on it. And hopefully that continues to inspire more runners. And
yeah, we've talked about it. We've talked about it plenty on here too, about how a big part of it is the technology, the advancements in technology too. Like, not just, a lot of people during the pandemic, they were forced to be at home, but they found out about things like Bluetooth headphones and watches that saves music on them, that you don't have to carry your phone with you, and all these other things, and treadmills, and that have screens that you can go anywhere in the world. That type of stuff has just allowed the sport to grow, and this is just another thing, right? Just like Strava was an app that allowed runners to come together and share their experiences. Now we're getting even more technology allowing people to run injury free, thus run longer, and thus get to show up at those races more often.
Yeah, I don't know if I told you, the 3 of us met on TikTok, so we all met on social media. So we're a product of that growth, essentially, and of that marketing, that took place. But I think another thing that's happened is people are learning that running is not as judgmental as they thought it was. Like, oh, I can be and look a certain way and still be a runner. Like, I don't have to be this Olympic athlete to be a runner. Whereas, you go play basketball, you're not a basketball player, right? You go play football, you're not a football player. But if you go run, you're a runner. Doesn't matter how slow, how fast you are, how good you are, how long you've been running, what races you're doing or distance, you're a runner. And I think people are starting to grasp that concept now. And again, social media is a huge reason for that. And so again, to your point, when you're building it out at the perfect time, I feel like right now.
Yeah, that's right. And I think, I mean, the beautiful thing about running is it's a great teacher too. I mean, I think when people start to do it, it's one of the clearest things in life, maybe, where if you spend time on it, like, you'll get better in a relatively quick amount of time. Like, you get real feedback on it. And I think that must hook people. I mean, it's something I figured out a long time ago. I came from a family of runners, so it's, I just saw it and did it at a young age. But I think even as an adult, right, you can come into it at any time and get a pair of shoes and just start running around your neighborhood. And in a month, you'll be running around your neighborhood faster than you were the month before. And it's just the feedback and the confidence that it builds that all then can carry over into other things in life.
It's funny how many people like learn that lesson like later on in life. Like we talk a lot about how, the other sports used running as a punishment when we were in like middle school and high school. And then now these people are like running in their 20s. So it's just kind of, it's funny how everything kind of comes full circle with it. And I really don't think that growth is done either. Like, I think this is just going to continue to boom with, the advancements in technology for sure, but also the way that like, society is going, like with more work from home type jobs, people have less traveling that they got to do. They're going to be able to do that more often. People are coming into running that are coming from these other sports, that are learning about these things through these other activities like Spartan races or high roxes that, they're fun and they're popular, but at the end of the day, they're not sustainable. So in between these events, everybody's looking for that next thing. And a lot of times it turns to running. So I don't think it's going to even level off anytime soon. I think we're just going to keep seeing growth.
Well, Carolyn, I'll let you speak to it, but she's a kind of a product that's a little bit different than the three of us, where she's not a lifelong runner. She openly talks about it. She started, 4 or 5 years ago?
Yeah, my senior year of college. And it was a free way to create endorphins because my mental health was really bad in college. And now here I am, a few years later, loving running, not seeing myself stopping. I'm a run streaker as well, which I don't know how you feel about that as a researcher.
Injury prevention.
But I do pay attention to RunWise and stuff. But yeah, I started late in life, and a lot of my friends are that way too. And like every single day, it seems like everybody, like somebody I know, is picking up running, or hey, I just signed up for my first 5K. So yeah, I think people are gonna dive into the science of running and technology and stuff. So yeah, a lot of late in life runners.
I thought of you, Carolyn, because up until yesterday, I'd ran 12 days straight.
Nice.
And yesterday I was like, no, I'm 45. I need a day off right now. Like this, my body's feeling this.
I'm at 1,986 days in a row, but it's not right. But again, I keep up to date with a sports psychologist and sports medicine doctor. Like my sports medicine doctor sends me Christmas cards. Like I'm very into the science. It's not just, I have to run every single day. It's not an addiction. It's not, anything crazy, but it's just, there's a lot of science that goes into running. And the more I found out about it, the more I was like, let me try and see if I can do this every day and sustain, good running performance, good running economy, and just stay healthy. So.
Well, and Bjorn, you had mentioned you despise the treadmill. Our friend Carolyn here is an avid lover. She loves the treadmill.
I do. I think it's really good mental training. So.
Yeah,
I can see that because like I'm about to go nuts if I'm on the treadmill for like any amount of time.
Yeah.
my experience was, it was 20 years ago or more, and also on a submarine where I could be sleeping. So treadmills were probably much nicer today than they were back then, and probably the cheap ones that we had on the submarine. But it's always I think it's just one of those things you've got to probably get used to, not moving through the outdoor environment and just being on the machine. But
I gotta pick the submarine thing apart. How is that running? I know you said you avoided it, but how do you? I'm just picturing me like being in this tube with no windows, and the roof being like right here because I'm standing on a treadmill. Like, what's it like running on a treadmill in a moving submarine in the ocean?
yeah, most of the time it's pretty, it's pretty steady. Deep down under there. If we were in a place where like there was a hurricane or something that was really rocking, we just probably wouldn't go on there. But it would be kind of like running in a basement without windows. It's real stuffy. Basically down in this room surrounded by a bunch of pumps and pipes, and when I was on, it was before, I guess we had those sort of portable DVD players, but maybe some music in your ears. So it wasn't the greatest place to be run.
I mean, do you think that scarred your experience with treadmill running? And so from that point on, you're like, I'm running on a treadmill.
It could have, it could have just been, I was already stuck down there. You have the choice. I can go for a run, or I can go to get some sleep, and maybe that was more of it. I just blamed the treadmill. I just wanted to get sleep and be lazy. But I've always just liked being outside.
Yeah, that's fair. Curious question, that's all. All right, random question. There's nothing to do with running. What do you nerd out about outside of running? Like, what's your thing when you're not running?
I mean, in the last few years, it's been coding and just trying to learn how to build a software platform. So it took a lot of on the machine learning side, just reading and learning, but then learning how to. It's been a while. I have a background in electrical engineering and did some coding in college 20 plus years ago, but sitting down again and learning Python and figuring out how to do this type of thing myself. And I guess I'm an avid reader, and we do a lot of, my family and I, we do a lot of camping.
Did you read the book series that Chase mentioned at the beginning of the podcast?
I did not. And like you said, I think I've heard somebody else say that, and I just don't know in what context. So I'm going to have to make note.
It's super nerdy. I would call it a mix between Hunger Games and Ready Player One, but like Arnold Schwarzenegger Running Man from like the 80s, because it's all like televised and stuff. So it's really cool.
Okay.
But this whole talking about running on a submarine thing got me thinking about this guy. I don't know if you guys have seen this dude that is like he ran a 5K on an airplane in an airplane bathroom.
I think I heard that.
Explain to me how that map is correct. Right? Like if he's on a moving plane, right? He's traveling really fast, right? So it wouldn't look like that.
It shouldn't, right? Have you ever seen somebody run on a cruise ship?
Yeah.
And it plots it through the ocean, so you would think it would do the same.
Right. Like I would think that his map would be just like one really long straight line. But
that's right.
That kind of occurred to me when I saw that. I was like, how's that? I don't think that's correct.
Yeah, I never thought about that. Carolyn, what do you do if you're on, well, how long did it take you to fly to when you went to Egypt?
we had two separate flights. So the first time we had a layover in Paris, and the second time we had a layover in Berlin.
I mean, as a run streaker, did you have to run at the airport during that time? Is that what you did?
I have a video of me running through the Charles de Gaulle airport.
Okay, I was curious. It's like, or you're running on an airplane, one of the two. So
That is my least favorite airport in the world. So yeah, like that's not fun.
Trash. And it's always a
the worst.
distraction, man.
It is the worst.
oh, man. Well, Bjorn, I mentioned I was just on the or at the RRCA conference, and they have an expo there as part of the conference. It's a 2-day expo, and at the expo, there's some new like startup companies within the running.
Yeah.
I met this one girl, and I wish I had her business card with me, but she started her own running shoe company.
Oh, wow.
And, it's an up and coming one. And that's where I jokingly brought up Shark Tank, because she said she interviewed for Shark Tank. There's like 700, they interview 700 people in each location. And she kind of told me the process. But when are you going to make an appearance at one of these? The next RSA conference is in Carolyn's neck of the woods, out in Austin, Texas.
It's annual?
It's annual, yeah. It's usually every April. And what they do is they always attach their conference to a big local race. So like this year's in DC, so they attached it to the Cherry Blossom. So, that's part of the selling point to go to that conference. And then they also attach their certification, because, RRCA is the main coaching certification platform that's out there. Then USATF is probably the next one. So they actually do their in-person certification classes. So those students come to the conference, and then you have all the club owners and the state reps from every single state and coaches, and they do big auctions out there, and you get to meet a lot of professional athletes. As I was telling them, I got to meet some cool people there. But yeah, but it's usually startup companies or newer companies that are at the expo trying to promote their brand, their apparel, there was a metal company out there that offers their metal making services. There's a bib company out there that offers their bib making services. There was that shoe company, a couple of singlet companies, and Shocks was like the big one that was there. They were there. Yeah, I just made me think of you, and
No, I need to put that one on my list. It wasn't what I was familiar with, but that's exactly the types of things that we want to be doing. We did our first expo at the Donna Marathon locally, right? Right here, no travel costs. So learned a lot doing it, but if we have some success, that's the exact type of event that we'd like to have a booth at, to be able to to meet and talk to people and spread the word.
That's cool.
We'd love to see you up here in Indianapolis sometime. Carolyn's coming up in a couple of weeks for the Indy Mini. That'll be a fun one. Yeah. And then Jake's a big fan of the Monumental.
Right?
Monumental's my favorite. If you do go to Austin, you might have an opportunity to meet our all-time favorite influencer that lives in Austin, Mr. Matt Choi.
Is that where
we
he
also
lives?
Actually do not like Matt Choi, but
like a lot of people.
He does live in that area.
Okay.
But yeah, I say that as a joke. I don't know. I always feel bad when I say it on air, but I also don't.
I think Austin's become known as like the influencer hub. Like it's like the influencer capital of the world. So if you you live in Austin, I think you have to be an influencer now. Like it's something. You either have to have like a big time YouTube channel, TikTok channel, or podcast or something.
When you were running, and I know we're close to time, I just one more question. When you were running at your highest level, what were you like? Were you a track guy? Were you a cross country guy? And how far did you get at your highest point?
So I was a cross country guy. I wasn't fast. So I ran at the Naval Academy. It's a Division I school. So we were pretty good. I walked on to the team and progressed every year. So I was able to run some races in cross country and track. I wasn't fast enough to race. So for a 5K, you had to run under 15 minutes, probably 14:45 to even be like in the conversation to race. But we trained because we trained all year to make it around to the fall and be able to run, right. 12 guys on the team in the fall, so there were opportunities for me to race there. But the best time, my best races were in cross country at on our home course. I got under 26 minutes, so it's low 5 minutes per mile for 5 miles on grass and dirt and hills. So it was pretty fast, running 80 miles a week, 80 miles a week. Coming from a low mileage high school ordinary career to running, basically going through the 5K much faster than or the 5K point in a 5 mile race much faster than I did as a high schooler. So it was, I kept improving.
Awesome. Yeah, more of a curious question. That's all. Sorry.
Yeah, no.
Well, guys, I think we're at our 1 hour threshold here.
Sure.
Some of us are in a different time. Carolyn's in a different time zone, so a little different for her than us East Coasters. But yeah.
We'll start out.
Yeah, go ahead, Chase.
I was just saying, Bjorn, will you tell us about where people can find you and RunWise and how they can access your service and all that?
All right. You can find me at runwiseai.com. We're also on social media on Instagram and TikTok at runwiseai.
Perfect.
All righty, cool. So go sign up for RunWise and get it connected to your Strava. Carolyn, where can people find us?
You can find us on Spotify, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, all of that at Run Talk Live. You can find Chase and I at the Indy Mini Half in 2 weeks. You can find me on TikTok at Carolyn McDuff and Instagram at Carolyn M. Levenway. Chase, where can people find you?
Chaser No Pacer, pretty much all the platforms, TikTok, Instagram, X, Facebook, whatever. Just look up Chaser No Pacer. And Jake, what about you?
You can find me on all the social media platforms known as The Cultural Runner, TikTok, the me and the main one, and news that we can talk about next time, guys. You can also find me at the Indianapolis Monumental Marathon in November.
Nice.
Stay tuned.
Finally doing a marathon this year, man, after saying you weren't.
Nice. Man, we're gonna have to go see Carol. We got to go down to Dallas here eventually, though. It's gonna be her turn here pretty soon. Well, thank you for listening to episode 69 of Run Talk Live. Thank you, Bjorn, for joining us. Make sure you go check out RunWise. It's been a great episode, y'all. Deuces.
Peace.